Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the series on the survival game. Today, we're going to be setting up our damage system, but we're only going to be working on the legs today because the legs is probably one of the easiest to get out of the way. So, how this is going to work is we're going to basically have it so we're going to damage the leg, and we're going to always check to see what the damage is. Now, if the damage to the leg goes below a certain number, what's going to happen is our leg's going to break. So we're going to be setting the max walk speed lower. We're not going to set up the sound, but we're going to basically put print string to say break the leg, and disable sprinting and stop sprinting if they are sprinting. Now, the first thing we need to do, and bearing in mind that this massive chunk here is actually for a future episode. I already created a damage system, but I've actually decided, you know what, I'm going to change it because it's quite complicated and it's quite messy, especially for a beginner series. I don't want to overcomplicate things, so we are going to be doing, I'm going to re-record this episode, but I'm leaving this here so we keep the same full damage system, because that is what that is, that's full damage. And so what we're going to do is, the first thing we have to do is we need to create a new sprinting variable. So let's create a variable here, and we're going to go is, or no, we'll call it can sprint. So we're going to put that into the category of sprinting. And by default, we actually want this to be true because we're obviously going to be allowed to sprint. And over here on our IA interaction, we're going to, because we need to call this before we call these, because if we do it here, then it's going to already call it and try to do it already, and there's no point in that. We might as well just do it in here. Now, to stop sprinting, it doesn't really matter for this. We can actually just do it just for the start sprinting. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag off a start and get a branch. And off this branch, the condition will obviously be can sprint. So, can we sprint? Yes. Okay, start sprinting. So now we need a way to check for damage. And in the last, or when I last did it, I did it as a function for each individual limb. And I still feel like this is probably one of the best ways to go about it, because then we can keep the legs, the arms, torso, and head all separate, so we don't have to keep looking through loads of code. We can just go straight to the function. So we're going to create a new function, like I said, and we're going to call, this one evaluate leg health. So we're going to evaluate the leg health, and we're obviously going to need another one called damage leg, but we might do that in a custom event. So the evaluate leg health is, we're basically, every tick, we're going to be checking what the health is. So we're going to get a sequence. And just want to point out here, guys, there may be a few mistakes here and there, and I may have to double back on myself a little bit, just because for some reason, my other Unreal Engine project, which I normally have open for my testing, is closed, and it won't actually let me open it for some reason like it normally would. I've tried to write down a little bit in a notepad, but we'll just see how this goes. So yeah, on this evaluate leg health, we need to evaluate the left leg first. So we're going to basically go to variables, and we're going to go leg, we're going to create a new one, and we're going to call it leg underscore, no, we'll just call it leg broken. Now, we don't really have this in our, we don't really have a category for this yet, but we'll set that up later. And so what we're going to do, we're going to drag off of then 0 from the sequence, and we're just going to get a branch. Sorry, I literally just said about making mistakes. Straight away, I've gone and made a mistake. So in here, we will need this later, so we're going to leave this here. But in here, we're not actually checking if the leg's broken. We're checking what the health is. So keep this branch here. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our left leg health. So drag it in, go get. And we're basically going to say less or equal to. So is the left leg less than or equal to, let's say, 30? So if it's lower than 30 health, we're basically going to go off of true, and we're going to call a new event called break leg, for example. So we need to do that now. So let's head back into our event graph, and we're going to right click here in an empty space and go add custom event. And we'll call this one break underscore leg. So simply all we're doing is breaking the leg, and what we'll do is off of this we'll call break leg. Now if it's false, we don't actually need to do anything because the leg's not broken, so we don't need to worry. But we'll go on to branch and we'll do the exact same thing for the right leg. So grab the right leg health, get, and then we'll just copy this over. So we'll just copy this over, and I know it's a magic number, but do not worry about it. We will sort these later. So on the right leg health, we'll call this, and we'll call break leg again. But actually no, sorry, again, I've made another mistake. Click on this and rename it to break left leg, and we'll create another event called break right leg. So you can just create another event, call this one break underscore right underscore leg. So the reason we do this separately is because we're going to be adding some UI in the future and a way to heal in the future as well, and you're going to want to be able to use it on a certain limb. So let's say your right leg's broken, but you try to use a bandage on both legs. It doesn't really make sense. So we're actually going to be doing this so we have two different legs that can be broken. So it's going to be exactly the same. So just break right leg and just put that there. So we now need a way to call our evaluate leg health. Now, if we go into our event graph and on our event tick, if we call this every time, when this value gets below 30, it's going to call break left leg over and over again, which basically will then call this. So if we have like print string, just to represent play broken leg sound, just like that, basically what this will do is it will call it every single time. So we actually now need a way to set up a damage of legs. And what we're going to do for that is we're just going to set up a very simple function to lower the health of the left leg and the right leg, and we'll then be able to call the evaluate leg health every time this is every time like damage is applied. So let's do that now. So let's go and create a new function, and we will call damage underscore leg. No, we'll call it damage underscore left leg, because again we need to make sure these are separate. Even though they're exactly the same, we just need to make sure they're separate. So we'll damage left leg, and what we'll do is we will grab, or what we'll do is we'll create an input, and we'll call this one damage amount. So you may wonder, okay, why on earth are we passing in a damage amount? So how this will work is if you go to your event graph and you just call this function real quick. So if you go damage left leg, you'll see there's now a new node in here, and you can actually plug this in to something else. So let's say, for example, max stamina. I know it doesn't really make sense, but the max stamina is 50. So if we put that into there, when you go into damage left leg, the damage amount is now set to 50. So we're obviously not going to want to do that. We'll set that up later. But on damage left leg, what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of this, and we're going to call set left leg, or set, I can't remember what the variable called, L underscore, you know what, it's just going to be easier if we drag it in and we connect it to the pin. And now what you want to do is you want to go to drag off of the pin and just go clamp float, which will be this one here, and you will then set the value to a minus, so a subtract, and the damage amount will go in the bottom one, and this one will just be what the current health actually is. So the current health is, for example, 100, and the damage amount is 10, so we're damaging the leg, and we actually need a max health, but we'll set this up as a magic number for now, so it'll be 100. So basically we damage the left leg, we pass in this damage amount, which can be anything from what we set up. So for example, if an animal has a certain attack damage, then it will use that damage instead of a random value we put in. And we'll call the left leg health, and we'll minus them. So it'll be 90, for example, if it's 10 damage. Then we'll clamp this float, so it never will go below 0, it'll never go below 100, and we then set the leg health, because we want to now see if that will work like that. And now we want to, and then we'll set the leg health, because that's what we need to do. So that's now damaging the left leg. However, we also need to call evaluate leg health, because we need to make sure, so let's go evaluate leg health. And you may think, okay, well, if we're on the event graph and it's doing event tick and it does that every time, surely we don't want to hear the noise over and over again. But if we call it like this, it'll only happen when we damage the leg. So if the leg gets damaged and we have already broken it, you may hear the crunch sound again, which is perfectly fine, because it you know, if you, I mean, I've personally never broken a bone, but if you break a bone and do something like that, I'm sure you'll probably hear a bit of crunching if you hurt it again. So, the damage left leg function is now set up, and the evaluate function is also set up. So we're calling this, and remember, we do this exact same thing for the right leg as well, but for now we'll just leave it right now. So now we actually need a way for this damage to come in. So what we'll do is we will go back to our event graph, and we'll just simply create a keyboard event, and we'll do T. Now this will just be a random button we can call to call some damage. So what we'll do is we will call damage left leg, and you can see we don't actually have a value here to plug in, so for now we can simply just put 30. Yeah, we'll just do 30 for now as a good test. So I'm just quickly going to go test this. Let's see if this works. There may be a mistake in here, but that is part of game development. We go in and look at that. We press T, we minus 30, and there you go, play broken leg sound. But obviously you can still sprint, so we need to actually change that, because if you've got a broken leg, you're not supposed to sprint. So obviously we put this earlier, so we set can sprint. But now we want to go onto another thing where on the break leg, so we don't want to do it on evaluate, we want to do it on break leg. We want to simply just set can sprint to false, because we don't want to sprint anymore. And just in case, we'll do stop sprinting, just like so. So let's now go back, do this, and what we'll do is we'll sprint around, we'll go lower, and there you go, it stops sprinting and it says break the sound or set the broken sound. And we also need to set the max walk speed, which I did forget, I will be honest. But what we'll do is we'll just drag this across so we have a bit more space, and we will then what we'll do is once we'll drag this across for a bit more space, we will set the max walk speed. So we can actually do this as a variable. So we'll go into here and create a we'll create a broken leg speed. Change this to a float, and we're going to put this in the sprinting category because that's where all our values are for walking and sprinting. So we'll chuck that in there. And what is the default walk? The default walk we have is 300, but let's say that's way too high. You're not going to walk that quick. So we're going to set that to 150. And we're simply just going to drag that in. And we're also going to drag in the character movement. And we're going to set max walk speed. And we're going to connect that into there. And we're going to connect that into there. Now, obviously, we don't have a healing system at the moment because we haven't got to that part yet. But when we get to that part, which I may leave it till after maybe an inventory system or something like that, because then we can just set it straight up with like bandages and medkits and whatever else we may need. Once you've set this up, you can then set the walk speed back to what it normally is when you've healed your broken leg. It may seem a bit unrealistic because your leg's not going to heal just from a bandage, but this is, again, a beginner tutorial. We don't want to go too overboard. We don't want to start using enums for no reason. We don't want to be doing none of that when we can simply just create it off some variables, because again, this is a beginner friendly tutorial. I don't want to overcomplicate things when they don't need to be, even if technically it's the right way to do it. Now, before I end this episode, I will say that with this, we do obviously need to test it, But if you don't want the broken leg sound to play and to call this every time you get damaged after breaking your leg, the best way I can think of off the top of my head is, I haven't tested this, so take this with a grain of salt, is creating a boolean called leg broken, for example, and we set it to true on this here, and we call the break left leg, or no, we'll probably do it somewhere else where you set it to true when that's happened. Then on break left leg, so for example, you can put it at the end of this when it first happens, so we can actually probably test it now. So we go leg broken, we'll set that to true, but now we'll create some space here and we'll do a branch. So if leg's broken, true, we do nothing. If it's false, then we do all that. So let's have a look quickly. So we'll go T to damage the leg, instantly slows us down, and we're very slow. I feel like maybe the walk speed is not setting right, so let's just check this. We'll just do this now. We'll just set it to 50, so it's definitely super slow. And then we'll... There you go, so it's definitely working. Oh, well, I know why that's happened. It's because, like I said earlier, you don't actually need can sprint here. But I forgot this actually toggles this anyway, even if you let go of sprint, and it still calls the stop sprinting. So we will just chuck in the can sprint to true, just to make sure we can do it. And there you go, that shouldn't happen anymore. There we go, and there we go, we spam shift. And you can already see the character's kind of limping anyway, but this isn't actually meant to happen. You're not actually supposed to walk this slow with this, but yeah. I am going to set this back quickly to what it originally was. So broken leg speed, I think I did 150. We're going to do that. So just to quickly recap this episode, obviously we can do the break right leg, but we'll do that in another episode to easily set that up. So we have created the evaluate leg damage, which is being checked every time you're damaged by something, so it doesn't run all the time, and you're then checking if your health is below a certain amount. If it is, then we're going to break it. And then with this, we evaluate the leg health after the damage, obviously, to then call this. And then in the event graph, we make sure that with sprinting, we just make sure we can or not. And then we go over here to break the leg when it is below this amount. And we check if the leg's already broken. If it is broken, we do nothing because you don't need to call this again. If it's not broken, you then just do this here. And yeah, we'll set up this in another episode. It'll be exactly the same. But I am going to just quickly comment this and call this break left leg. And each limb is going to basically be very similar. It's just instead of playing a broken sound and setting the walk speed, it's going to be, for example, if you get hit in the head, you'll have like red go round your avatar, or if you get hit in the torso, your hunger will deplete faster, stuff like that. So it's all very simple stuff. Again, the next episode is going to be full damage, but I'm going to have to re-record that to match up with this system. So I do apologise about that, guys, but that is, yeah, so I don't know when that one's coming out. But again, this, when we're doing the right leg, it's going to be a lot shorter next time because we've already got the evaluate leg health in here. And I've already kind of explained it, so I don't really need to go over again and do it. But yeah, it's a simple system, and I am waffling way too much. So guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. I apologise for the waffle, I apologise for the confusion, and yes, I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I hope it helped you out a lot. And if it did, make sure to drop a like, and yeah, I will see you in the next episode, which should be full damage.